was talking with her. This is Snarp Fangle, but I was talking with her.
Side tangent.
I was
You
talking.
should say that at your work when you're working and it's just
They're not
random.
gonna know what
People
that.
are like, are you saying
I
like an
am-
alien curse
I
word?
am like a what's it called? What's it
Have
called?
you told Ed about the podcast? I should send it to him actually. Like you should Ed tell him.
I told Rain.
Dude, Ed, if you're listening, I'm just sending you videos on Instagram and they aren't even seen, man. Come on.
come on, Dave.
And I
He's
see
on
you're
there.
active on there. Why aren't you looking at my
It says you're
videos,
online
Ed?
right now. I see the green
Yeah,
button.
Ed.
he goes on this app
You
right now.
celebrating Cinco de Mayo on your stories.
my
Oh,
You're gonna look at
Jake.
my videos. You're sitting down at some point in your life and watching videos on Instagram.
Jake, if you
Anyway.
look on there and there's like 80 videos from you, he ain't gonna be looking at them. Like,
Yeah,
I
there's
don't-
quite a few at this point. Yeah, it's been a couple months. Anyway.
But I was telling her the other day, I was like, yeah, you're not like at, I guess, like the adult level of like me when I was your age, or like
Lexi.
24 or whatever. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, or Jake when he was your age. But I'm like, emotionally, she's way more
Oh, yeah, way
mature
more
than
mature.
I am.
Yeah, then we were.
Oh, wow.
Because she's, I was not gonna say anything, but like there was just things she was dealing with totally. I'd watch her deal with totally differently. I'd be like, I would be crushed about that. She's like, it's whatever. And it's like my attitude of I'm in the floaty in the ways, except she deals with emotional things totally differently than I do.
Yeah.
I'm more of like the game of life, like job, money, whatever. I'm just, it is what it is.
Me,
you know,
it's panic attacks, dude. Like,
I don't know.
I
It
can't
just
deal
is
with
what
some
it is
things,
because
you
I
know?
refuse to be like stressed out about everything. I'm like, I
Yeah.
refuse. I'm not going to be stressed out about stuff that's not a big deal. Even if it is a big deal, it happens. I'm not surprised by anything, literally. So I'm just like, she handles stuff totally different. I'm like, but when it comes to like emotional stuff, like I'm not that way. Like I can't take people who are like crying. I'm like, are you okay? I'm sorry.
You're like grandpa. You're like, I don't know how to handle
Yeah,
this.
I don't know how to
Yeah,
handle
yeah.
it. So I'm just like, I'm sorry. Aw. But yeah, I'm just impressed with both you and her. I'm just like, dang. You guys are at totally different levels than I am.
Well, I think we all just grow at our own pace and our own. I think we all
our
just grow in
household, mom and dad always
I think we
told
all
us like it's
mature in our own
okay to be
time.
late bloomers. They
Yeah,
always
and
told
we
us that.
were-
They're like, don't feel bad if
Well,
you're
I don't
not the same
believe
level as
in that
everybody else.
anymore. Like I
Well-
don't believe that there's such thing as a late bloomer
Well, I
because
think-
then you're putting everybody on the same level, saying you're all in the same race, and you're like,
I see what you're saying.
no, you're not. No, we're not. Everybody all lives totally different lives,
Yeah,
even if you
well,
all grew up
it's
in the same
way
household.
as everybody learns differently. Like literally, everybody does learn differently.
Yeah.
Literally.
Even if the education system tries to make something that is kind of good for everybody, but not really.
Yeah,
Even
exactly.
though no
I
matter
think
how
that's the
much
thing.
they try to make it equal for everybody or to make it easy for as easy for someone as it is for another person,
Mhm.
they'll always fail because every person's different. Everybody's body reacts differently to certain chemicals, reacts differently to different messages, and the
And
way
what's
they're
sad is I
interacting with
feel
people.
like that is
and
becoming
of course
less
how
of
they
a
learn.
less of a stigma. Because like I feel like more younger people, like the TikTok generation, everything, are being way more open to pretty much everything.
And
so
that-
they're more open to the
I
idea
think-
of that, of like everybody learns differently. So let's have our arms open a little bit wider, not just be narrow minded.
And I
So
could,
that's a good thing that came out of that.
and I could
like,
agree with that to a certain extent. Like I think the millennial generation, which is you guys, and then Generation Z, which is me, when that millennials are so like open with their emotions to a great fault, in my opinion. The same thing with Gen Z, they kind of carry that on. And I think being open is important, but I don't think everything should be aired out for me personally.
I believe that too.
Yeah.
I don't believe in airing out dirty laundry.
I've learned this when I was a youth minister and dealing with teenagers. Like there's certain things that, you want to say obviously when you're mentoring somebody and you can't say them. And I think it applies the same thing like if you're talking to somebody in real life. But also it applies the same online because you're talking to people on
yeah.
the internet.
It's so easy
Like, I
online to
shouldn't
say
share
whatever.
every single like I shouldn't know every single thing about every single person.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
unrealistic.
I don't
and it
want to
shouldn't
know
happen
that.
way.
Well, I think
Right?
And as you
well-
grow up and learn more about life, you learn why.
right, you regret that post from 8 years ago.
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a deception there because when we did first get internet, and I was very like, I guess juvenile when it came to the idea of like Facebook and stuff like that, and like Instagram. Because
Same thing
I'm
for
getting
me with Twitter.
I'm getting
that started
memories
out.
on like Facebook that popped up, and I'm venting my emotions about something that happened, and I'm like, I'm not gonna share that memory. That was from 6 years ago,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I posted that. Like what?
Everybody saw
I'm
that.
like, what?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, but I think that
It there's a certain
There's a barrier.
There's a barrier.
They're like, I can
but there's
hide
also
behind the
a-
screen
exactly,
and I can.
But there's a responsibility to, I think, what you air out there because, like you just said,
right.
there's and every like when we were talking about I think it was bad about like reactions and what you have to say to somebody online. Give it 48 hours, and if you're over it by then, don't say anything.
Don't say.
If you're not, then sure, post something.
That's a
Yeah.
really good
and
rule.
that's
advice.
a rule I implemented when I was on Twitter for the first time, and I joined Twitter right when the 2016 election was going on in America. So it was like a beautiful time to join a discourse of American politics. But anyway, like there's so many times where I wanted to argue somebody, or you think that about that game developer? No, there are other games better. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like just petty squabbles.
Right.
But I had to implement that rule because I'm like, I kind of noticed like once you give it 48 hours, especially during that time on Twitter or just in general online and on the internet, you give it 48 hours and you're like, you will know exactly how you feel about that, or if it'll blow over or something like that. But just give yourself
Which is
some
an
time.
interesting thing that like this new generation is gonna have to teach their children.
Yeah, don't
Because
be
we
super
didn't.
open.
It's not like us where we didn't have the
Like,
internet.
I shouldn't say super open, but you should be open. For
Well,
sure.
you need to coach kids about how to use the internet safely.
when to-
the
when
same
to
way you
do
need
it
to
and when
coach
not to do
them
it.
about
Yes,
like
yeah.
interacting with people in real life.
Yep.
Like, if someone DMs you and you don't know who they are, you got to teach the same stranger danger.
If you got a letter in
situation.
the mail
Yeah.
from somebody saying, "Hey, you got a
letter in
cool
the
hat."
mail.
Yeah,
What?
if you got a letter from the mail from somebody that said, "Hey, you got a cool hat that you wear." Well, you can get.
You're like looking
What?
around.
You're like, what the heck? Treat it the same as online.
No, what are you talking?
Yes.
I'm not talking about. I'm talking about stranger danger. Like someone walks
Exactly,
up to you.
that's
and
what
says,
I'm
"Oh, you
talking
know your
about.
mom and
That's
dad."
what
I'm
he
talking
means.
about.
In the mail.
In the mail.
Shut your face. This makes no sense.
It makes
You
sense
just
to me.
said direct message. I'm talking about message through the mail. Don't you understand? Am I not communicating effectively? Am I retarded? Is that why?
Is more like somebody walking up to you and
Oh.
talking to you.
Oh yeah, stranger danger.
That's what I mean.
That's what I mean too.
Jake, it takes 3 days for a letter to get to you in the mail on average. Someone's gonna
know.
see you in the store and
If
mail
I
you
get
a
a letter,
3
if I
days
get
later.
a DM from a girl that says, "Check out my page," and I get it
Oh
in the
my
mail,
God.
I'm gonna be like, "Yeah, I'm not checking out your page either way. I'm sorry."
Okay, now I know what you mean. That makes no sense. to me.
Yeah,
I was like,
I know
what's
what
your
you're
address
talking
and
about.
everything? I think you're closer to millennial than you think. Okay.
Okay. So I actually am. I found this out recently. 97 is when Gen Z starts, and that's when I was born. And so I'm technically
Oh,
like,
you're right on the line.
I'm right on the line.
You're millennial.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you
David
are.
considers me a millennial too. but
You're
I'm not.
It's your
That's
mentality.
I
funny.
and
consider
it's the
me
way
a
you
very
think.
wise Gen Z. I don't know. I don't know. I'm Gen Z with more experience, I guess.
You're-
but
I think you're a millennial
no.
based on behavior.
This is
and, like,
going to
how you
become
act
an
and
inside
stuff.
joke at Snarp Fangle, and it starts with this episode.
Oh my
Jake's,
god.
is Jake a millennial?